In the lands of Middle-earth, legend tells of the Dark Lord Sauron and the ring that would give him the power to enslave the world. Lost for centuries, it has been sought by many, and has now found its way into the hands of the most unlikely person imaginable. Sauron needs only this ring to cover all the lands in darkness.
What must I do?
The ring must be destroyed.
The ring must be cast back into the fires of Mount Doom.
There is evil there that does not sleep.
Sauron's forces are already moving. They will find the ring and kill the one who carries it.
No! Come on, Frodo! I cannot do this alone.
You have my sword.
And you have my bow.
And my axe.
This task was appointed to you, and if you do not find a way, no one will.
The enemy has many spies. Birds, beasts.
Something draws near. I can feel it.
If you want him, come and claim him.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone, where we love talking about movies and more. I'm your host, Mason Phillips, and today for our Thursday recap series, we got a film for you from the year 2001, and that's The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. One of my favorite films of all time, one of my favorite franchises of all time, so I'm so excited to get into this video. But before we go any further, I want to ask you guys to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you get notified when new videos go live on this channel. When you guys do that, it always helps me out. I greatly appreciate it. We're approaching 500 subscribers on this channel, so for those of you who aren't subscribed that enjoy this channel, I would ask you to go down and hit that subscribe button. It would really help me out a whole lot. I really appreciate it. Now let's get on to the plot. The future of civilization rests in the fate of the One Ring, which has been lost for centuries. Powerful forces are unrelenting in their search for it, but fate has placed it in the hands of a young hobbit named Frodo Baggins, who inherits the ring and steps into legend. A daunting task lies ahead for Frodo when he becomes the Ring Bearer to destroy the One Ring in the fires of Mount Doom, where it was forged. Alright, so The Fellowship of the Ring. This is one of my favorite films of all time, so I can kind of warn you ahead of time. There's not going to be much in the bad or the mixed. A lot of this is going to be what is good about this movie, because there's so much that's good about this movie. I love talking about the world of Middle-earth. This was a series that I had actually put off watching for a very long time. I actually only just got into the Lord of the Rings series a couple of years ago, and that's all thanks to my wife. She was my girlfriend slash fiance at the time, and she got me introduced to this series. And thankfully she did, because it's one of my favorite series of all time. The stories of Middle-earth, the Ring, and Sauron, hobbits and Gandalf, and the elves, and Aragorn, and everything that surrounds this whole world. The world that J.R.R. Tolkien created here is just incredible. What he thought of, the stuff that he came up with, a little history for you. A lot of the ideas for the series came up during his service while he was serving in World War I. And while he was in the trenches of World War I, he came up with the idea for the Lord of the Rings that developed into the Hobbit book, that developed into the Lord of the Rings series, and a lot of other stuff in the world of Middle-earth. And Lord of the Rings is just one of the most epic series that has ever been put to screen, and a series that was nearly impossible to put to screen. And thankfully, Peter Jackson was able to work his magic and put all this together. And it wasn't just him. This was a collaborative effort to put together this whole series. If you didn't know, the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy was filmed back to back and was released annually starting in the year 2001 up through the year 2003. You got that Lord of the Rings trilogy, and it's one of the rare series that was able to translate transcend out of the pop culture space, out of the fan space. It got noticed by the Academy. It got nominated for Best Picture for the 2002 Academy Awards. And if you didn't know this already, Return of the King actually won Best Picture at the 2004 Academy Awards. And it's no surprise because this film series is it's grand, it's epic, and it tells a very clear story of good and evil, what temptation can do to you. There's a lot of great messaging in here, warnings about what greed, revenge, lust for power, what all of that can do to corrupt your soul. There's a lot of great allegory through this series. A lot of this is from the background that J.R.R. Tolkien came from, comes from a Christian background, and so he implemented some Christian themes throughout this, but nothing that's overt or preachy. You kind of have to go digging for that. It's not on the surface like it is with the Chronicles of Narnia. We'll say that with C.S. Lewis's series. It's a little more subtle in its messaging, but it still tells a very clear story of good and evil, right and wrong. Just an epic tale of good triumphing over evil. I love this series, especially Fellowship of the Ring. For the longest time, Fellowship of the Ring has been my favorite movie in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the Lord of the Rings saga. As I revisit the series over the next couple of weeks, that might change, and then I'll keep you guys updated on what my favorite film in this series is. I just love Fellowship of the Ring. I love the grand story of somebody who seems very insignificant. You know, the hobbits, they live a simple life. They don't really want to go on these grand adventures, but they're called into these grander stories, and it's because it's the humble person. It's the person that may not be the mightiest of all, but has the mightiest spirit of all. He feels called to complete this quest, to take the ring, to take the one ring and drop it into the fires of Mount Doom, where it was created, the only place that it can be destroyed. And there's just this great tale of somebody who seems so meek and so simple can do something so grand in spite of all of the mightier people that seem mightier around him. But the hobbits have such a capacity to do good. The story of Frodo, and paired with him, Samwise Gamgee, Merry and Pippin, the story of Mike coming out of a place you wouldn't expect. I love that tale. I love that story. And it's a grand epic tale. We get told of the backstory of what happened with Sauron, what happened with the creation of the rings and how it affected man, and how the one ring had corrupted Sauron, has corrupted anybody who has become the ring bearer. It gives you this warning tales of what could happen to the bearer of this ring. And we see that corruption happen through Bilbo Baggins, somebody who doesn't use it for ill, but you can see that there is temptation, there's corruption. And then everybody that comes across this ring, we see what it did to Gollum, who was previously Smeagol, and we see what it did to him, how vastly it corrupted him. We just get little glimpses of him through this film. We'll get more of him in The Two Towers and Return of the King, but we just see little glimpses of what it did to him. But you can tell just by what little you see of Gollum how vastly corrupted he was by this ring. We see the terror on Gandalf's face, that he knows that if he goes down this path, it may not be a path he can come back from. We see what temptation and fear has done to Saruman, somebody who gave in, who was fighting for good, but gave in to evil. We see the story of Aragorn, who is descendant of Isildur, who was corrupted by the ring, and he may be the true heir of Gondor, the true king of Gondor, but he doesn't want to go down this path because he feels that temptation could be a weakness. He could be pulled down the same dark path that his ancestor was. There's just a lot of great messaging through this whole thing. And then the deep lore through this, the stuff with the eagles, the stuff with the ring, everything going on in Mount Doom, the story of Sauron and the fall that he took, the grand adventure that the hobbits go on, that the Fellowship goes on, and then we see the temptation that Boromir is fighting. Sean Bean's character, he's fighting through this entire film, being tempted by the ring, but wanting to do good and wanting to do right by his people and right by the Fellowship, but still tempted by this ring. Legolas, Orlando Bloom's character, one of the great characters in cinema, Gimli, played by Jonathan Rhys-Davies, who you might also know from the Indiana Jones series. He's not necessarily comedic relief, but he brings a little levity to the whole situation. Cate Blanchett's character of Galadriel, she's another ring bearer, not the bearer of the one ring, but she's also charged with bearing a ring. We see the temptation that she may go down. She passes the test of not being tempted by the one ring. But we see the story of temptation, fighting for good, when you go down the dark path, how much it can corrupt you. It shows you that evil is not the way, it's not the path, that greed is not the path, and it makes this clear distinction between good and evil. And I think more movies today could use that, because it tells it on a grand scale, but it doesn't dumb it down for you. It's not trying to, talk down to you. It's trying to treat the audience as intelligent, as you're on this journey with us, you're on the journey with Frodo to take the ring to Mount Doom, to drop it into the fires of Mount Doom. This is a grand tale, and it's truly a part 1, part 2, and part 3. Yes, they're distinct films unto themselves, but if you take the whole Lord of the Rings package, this main trilogy, it's really one big story told over the course of 3 films. And that is the case in a lot of trilogies, but really the case here, because this is truly a part 1, part 2, part 3, as each film pretty much picks up where the last film left off. And this film starts with the Fellowship being built up, and then we see how the Fellowship is torn apart, and it is just a wonderful, grand adventure that this whole story encapsulates. This is a movie that was released in 2001, but still kills it. When you rewatch this film, all the same feels just come back. Wonderful, wonderful tale. Almost impossible task that Peter Jackson took upon himself to create this series. Initially, he wanted to start with the Hobbit series in the 90s, and he wasn't able to make that happen. It didn't come about, it didn't come together, but one thing led to another for him to be able to create the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And then eventually he did revisit the Hobbit series when we got the Hobbit trilogy a couple years later. What this whole thing did for not only the world of Middle-earth and the fans of the Lord of the Rings series, what it did for the culture of cinema, what it did for the culture of the country of New Zealand, and how it impacted that nation. Because if you didn't know, the whole Lord of the Rings series was filmed in New Zealand. A grand epic landscape that is captured on screen. It's beautiful to look at, it's enriching, it's powerful to watch, and you can clearly tell why they were drawn to go film in New Zealand to capture the world of Middle-earth. And I think it was done grand, it was done great, and I love looking at this movie. It's a wonderful film to just watch and look at, and just to take in the world, the story aside, just to watch it and take in the designs of the characters, the look of the world, the look of Middle-earth. It's grand, it's epic, spectacular. I love this series. It shouldn't work. This movie should not have worked, and the fact that it did, and the fact that the whole series did, is just incredible. And so hats off to Peter Jackson and the entire team for putting this together. One of the greatest movies ever put to screen. I didn't even talk about the cast. I just kind of talked about the world. There's just so much to talk about with this whole series. But for one, interesting tidbit, Gandalf was not initially supposed to be played by Ian McKellen. The role was initially offered to James Bond actor Sean Connery. He didn't understand the world of Middle-earth. That was his explanation as to why he passed on the role, as he didn't really get what this whole thing was about. And so the role was passed on to Ian McKellen, and I gotta say, I can't see Sean Connery playing Gandalf. Ian McKellen just plays this character so perfectly that I can't see anybody else playing this character. I guess I'm happy that he passed on the role, because I just don't see him doing that. I don't even know if there is a close role that Sean Connery ever had to playing Gandalf. There's just nothing really in his career, I think, that would mirror playing Gandalf. Ian McKellen just fell into this role so perfectly. He became Gandalf. And that's the great thing about all these actors, is they just become the characters they're playing. You don't see the actor. Like, I know it's Elijah Wood playing Frodo. I know it's Sean Astin playing Samwise Gamgee. I know it's Orlando Bloom playing Legolas, but I don't see the actor. I see the character. Everybody just fell into the characters they're playing, especially Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn. He fell into this role, again, so perfectly, becomes this character. We see the torment, the reluctance to take on these quests, the reluctance to live up to his role as heir to the throne. He doesn't want to be the heir to the throne. He doesn't want to take on the throne for the fear of corrupting the throne, for fear of being corrupted by power. This is a man who is so cautious about taking on any extra bits of power for fear of what it could do to his soul, and for fear of how he could use it to corrupt others. And that's just such a great character, and a gripping character. It's believable. You believe the actions of these characters, and it's wonderful, spectacular. It's just a series that I have fully fallen in love with. All right, now let's go ahead and get into what was mixed about The Fellowship of the Ring. The only thing I really got in the mixed category is this is a film that is from 2001, so sometimes the visual effects can seem a little dated. Not cheap, but dated. There are times, especially within the realm of Mount Doom, Saruman is there, played by Christopher Lee. And quick tidbit for you, Christopher Lee knew J.R.R. Tolkien. He was the only person working on the Lord of the Rings series that actually knew J.R.R. Tolkien personally. It's really cool that there was that connection made between Christopher Lee and J.R.R. Tolkien, that there was a carryover between the original creator and somebody involved with the production of this series. Little interesting tidbit for you, but I thought that was pretty cool. But the visual effects, they're a little dated. They're 2001. When we're within Mount Doom, there are times when all of the more spectacular stuff is going on. Stuff's flying around on screen. It does kind of feel like somebody's acting off of a green screen. You do feel that, but it's not very distracting. You know, it's noticeable, but I do give it a little bit of a pass because it is the year 2001. And for the time, this was spectacular visual effects, spectacular filmmaking. Weta Digital that came out of this whole thing is one of the greatest visual effects houses that we have now, visual effects companies that we have now, right alongside ILM, came out of this whole thing with Peter Jackson creating Lord of the Rings. So they came out of this series. This was the first like big stuff that they worked on. I think they may have worked on a few things before this, but this was the first like grand project they worked on. And they did a wonderful job in piecing all of the visual effects together. For the most part, it's pretty seamless, but there are times when it feels just a little, not cheap, but you know, a little dated, and you can kind of tell somebody's acting off of a green screen, but it doesn't really get too distracting. So I do give it a pass for the time, but it can be a little mixed when you revisit it now in 2025. What was bad about Fellowship of the Ring? Got nothing for you. I think what's bad is if you watch the theatrical version of Fellowship of the Ring, you should not watch the theatrical version. I've actually never seen the theatrical version. I only ever dive into the extended version. So I guess I should have told you that up front. I'm reviewing the extended cut of the Fellowship of the Ring. So anytime I dive into these films for Middle Earth, be it the Lord of the Rings trilogy or the Hobbit trilogy, I'm always going to watch the extended cut, not the theatrical cut, because I think the extended cut just allows the series, the story to breathe, and it brings new light into certain scenes. My wife has told me a few things about what was cut in the theatrical version, and it just seems like it's a little choppier. While it still came together wonderfully, and obviously the theatrical versions of those films are what was nominated at the Academy Awards, the extended versions just allow this whole film to breathe and gives new details, new light to a lot of stuff going on within this world. So if you're going to do this, I know it's a time commitment. It's about 4 hours long to watch the extended cut. I think the extended cut of Fellowship of the Ring clocks in at about 3 hours and 48 minutes. So almost 4 hours to watch this film, but I still definitely recommend watch the extended cut. Don't do yourself a disservice and watch the theatrical cut. Even if you have to split this film up over the course of a couple of nights or a couple of days, watch the extended cut of the Fellowship of the Ring. One of the best films ever put to screen. I truly love this series. I love this film, and just the grand scope and nature of this whole thing. The world of Middle Earth is so captivating. The characters are so real and authentic. The actors just dive into the characters. They disappear into the characters they're playing. And this was a whole project that should have been impossible to put to screen, but Peter Jackson and his team was able to do something incredible with this entire series of really paying respect to what J.R.R. Tolkien had created initially, bringing this to screen and bringing it to light for new fans to come for years to come. And this is a wonderful, wonderful series. If you have somehow not watched the Lord of the Rings series, and I'll be honest with you, I did only get into this a couple of years ago, so it's very easy for you to miss this. I am telling you, this is one of the best, and I know that term is used a lot, but this is one of the best films ever made. You will not be disappointed. This is one of the best films ever put to screen. Do yourself a favor and watch The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring right now. The extended cut, I know it's a time commitment, but watch it right now. It is one of the best films ever put to screen. I truly, truly love this movie. If I'm going to give this movie a rating, it's got to be a 5 out of 5 or an A+ on the letter scale. One of the best films of all time. Love this film. Cannot say enough great things about it. I could say more about this movie, but then this video would turn into about an hour or 2 hours long, and we're not going to do that. I'm just going to stop this video right here. But if you've seen The Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, go down in the comment section and let me know what you thought of this film. I would love to hear from you. What do you think next week's video is going to be? We're going to cover a film in the year 2002 next week, next Thursday. So keep an eye out on the channel for that. With that out of the way, I would ask you guys to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you get notified when new videos go live on this channel. When you guys do that, it always helps me out. I greatly appreciate it. Remember, I am trying to get to 500 subscribers. I need less than 200 subscribers to get to 500. And with your guys' help, I know I can do that. So remember to hit that subscribe button and share this video, share this channel with all of your friends and fellow film lovers. I would truly, truly appreciate that. I hope you all have an awesome and a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video.